So I'm now trying this new platform of Zoom, as we've all had to become familiar with it. And I want to keep these conversations going. But I really want to hyper focus on the positive messaging, the positive stories, and the good that's actually taking place during this time. And I'm kind of focusing on people that are local, that have taken the resources they have to serve others, to provide a little bit of hope in times of need. This is going to be the second episode we've done, kind of focusing on these stories. I'm excited to invite a good friend of mine, Skyler Irvine. He's the founder of RenzlerMedia, the platform that we're hosting this podcast on. But it's not about necessarily promoting what Renzler is doing here in the community, but more Skyler specifically. Like all of us, he was affected, and in managing this new normal, apologize for that one. He came up with a really cool, just grassroots way to give back to someone, and it kind of spiraled from there. So I'll let him share on the story, but the idea is, Skyler, I really want you just to kind of tell, how COVID-19 quickly affected your business and what inspired you to take a little resource to help families here locally.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. Tim, I'm a big fan of literally how you've kind of tackled this as far as everyone's dealing with this and you're leaning into it and capitalizing on it and trying to showcase some of the good that's coming out of it. So this pivot, what you've done with the podcast and taking kind of leaning into the limitations of work from home instead of using as an excuse not to do anything, you're trying to reach out to people who are doing as much as they can during this time. So I think that's really cool. And I appreciate just being a part of this, everything you've been doing. What you're talking about specifically, like, yeah, I mean, like everyone, we were impacted. Maybe us as a business, I feel like I've spent 3 years trying to build a company that would capitalize after something like this happened. I think building out a marketing agency and a content agency in a time when everyone is just doing so well with a bull market and a good economy for such a long time that it's hard to try new things and experiment when everything is going good. Why change what's already working? I figured that once there was kind of a pullback in the market and everyone needed to kind of take a look at their finances and what they were spending as a business, they'd realize, wow, we're spending a lot of money on things that aren't converting like they used to. Google AdWords don't work as good as they used to, or SEO isn't as dominant as it once was, or spending money on postcards that haven't really sold a property, haven't really returned what we thought they were returning. Meanwhile, we're putting out free content on social media that's converted a lot of leads. That's what RenzlerMedia was kind of trying to capitalize on since its inception. The problem is first and foremost, we have to survive long enough to capitalize on that. We lost probably 80% of our revenue that first Monday post lockdown. And a lot of it was mostly business owners saying, we don't know what's going to happen. I've got employees that I've got to pay, and I don't know if I'm going to have revenue this month. So we've got to cut all expenses. And marketing and content is one of those expenses a lot of people cut. I mean, honestly, like, so, since then, it's actually been really good where a lot of people either come back saying, hey, this is the one thing we want to do more of, or we've actually had a lot of new stuff come in recently, which has been amazing, to be honest. But at the time when it was happening, it was just, I started calling clients ahead of time saying, hey, I know you're going through this. If you need to cancel or hit pause, I get it, because I've got employees too that I've got to pay. So everyone is going through this at the exact same time. There's no end in sight. Uncertainty, I think, is the scariest part of business. If we were just saying, hey, it's going to be locked down for 30 days. Okay, that sucks, but you can plan for it. If it's going to be locked down, we don't know for how long. That's hard because you can't really plan for it. So everyone's trying to just live 1 week at a time. But in business, that's really hard to do because you've got employees to pay for, you've got contracts to go after, you've got a lot of expenses that don't hit pause, even if your revenue does. So I know there's a lot we want to get into, but that's kind of where we were at and how we were impacted as a business. Was we're lean, we're a digital agency. We've spent a lot of time building out an in-studio production area to where you can come in for an hour and get a month's worth of content for your social media. In a world where you can't leave your house, that all of a sudden everything we've spent money and time building out becomes obsolete pretty quickly. It might return, but it forced us to pivot and do a lot of remote production and digital services and more virtual education and ways you can keep creating content, keep pushing stuff out there without going into a studio. So we're still in the middle of our pivot, but like everyone, this is a huge opportunity to capitalize on as long as you can survive some of the low.
Absolutely. And you shared how you called every client of yours and just said, "Where are you at? How what are you willing to do, or what are you willing not to do anymore?" And you just were very vulnerable, and you did that call to me, and I really appreciate that because I think a lot of people right off the bat got scared or got fearful, and they kind of just stood still or froze. And there's no fault because this came so unexpectedly, and depending on our circumstances, it could have been really easy to shut down, whether it's physically or emotionally, because of the fear that comes with all of this. So I appreciate you doing that, but I was probably one of the many that said, no, I want to keep leaning into this platform because storytelling at its core is going to be so valuable right now when people are at home and be consuming so much. I knew that this was a platform we had to keep going, but how, right? And you have the
Yeah.
resources available
And
there to allow me to keep doing this from my home office.
then a big thing is like I don't push content marketing because I have a content marketing agency. It's like I have a content marketing agency because of how much I believe in creating your own content and putting it out there. Because I work with a lot, I mean, I work with a lot of small business owners and a lot of entrepreneurs, and I know as one myself how much money gets spent on marketing. And when something scary like this happens, marketing is the first thing that gets cut because it's an easy thing to cut. You don't want to fire people if you can avoid it. The problem is a lot of people built their business off of marketing and off of advertising. And the second that you pull back on that, it's like you don't exist 30 days later. And if you're not in front of your customer, your client's eyes on a regular basis, it's not that they forget about you, they just get distracted and it's busy. So the clients of mine that have podcasts and YouTube channels and content that customers are actively searching for, they're still crushing it whether or not they're putting out content or not. Like I know someone who does a podcast in studio only. They said, "Hey, I'm just going to take this month off. I've been working my face off for too long. I'm going to take this as an opportunity not to put out content." But everything they've done beforehand is still generating new business for them. So they're not losing anything. But I know other people that have built like their entire real estate business off of Google AdWords, and they cut their Google AdWords, so now they've got no leads going into their websites, and their business like it starts to make it like a dramatic domino fall, which is really scary. And I think the ones that are kind of building themselves off of building the brand and putting content out there regularly and putting out stuff that is really helpful to people, no matter what it is really just really good business sense, and it works in good times and in bad.
Absolutely. So to get into some of the stuff I'm really excited for you to share on, as you went through your books and started to kind of evaluate how you're going to navigate this month of April and the business, and you came up with this gift idea, I guess. And I kind of watched it from the sidelines, and at first it looked like you had an opportunity to make a donation to a local family that just needed help. I believe it was groceries. But then from that, I think the response you got, what you did with that response is so awesome and very powerful in a lot of ways. And I just would love for you to share this story. And it's more you, Skyler, not necessarily what Renzler Media did, because these are the stories that I think are happening all around us, and they're very grassroots and they're very simple, but the impact it has, it could be significant on someone's life. So, if you would share a little bit about what you did, and I think it was the Isabella Rose Foundation, your support with them, and how it all came together. How you felt throughout it all, and is there a next step to it?
Like yeah, so this was actually really awesome, and rarely would I ever talk about this type of thing. I usually shy away in general, but what was so cool about this was how many other people stepped up, and it really taught me a lot about just how people want to help, if they can. And I've been involved with charity work, and I know how hard it is to fundraise. I know how hard it is to do a lot of things, and there's a lot of hoops to jump through. And really, what happened? The story was really simple. What that first Monday, we lost a lot of business. And I just spent a day calling all the clients and just getting like, okay, I don't want to be uncertain. I want to know what are the numbers? Where's everything at? So once we figured it all out, spent the whole day and was like, okay, I'm going to cut the expenses as I can. And we're a mobile digital agency. We're lean. Here's what we can absorb for how long, and kind of had the next 30, 60 days planned out. And really unexpectedly, we had someone say, hey, I want to do this project this week, and we had a bunch of free time, so I did it. We're $500. We just took this project on that was pretty easy for us to do. We did it at a huge discount just because we appreciated the work, and it was a good client of ours that we'd done work in the past, but we weren't expecting this $500 to come in. And because of that, I was like, hey, there's probably someone else out there that needs this a lot more, and it'd be really cool if maybe we helped 5 people who not expecting $100, because we weren't expecting this. Let's just pass this forward. So I just posted up on Instagram stories that, hey, it's $500 came in on a project. I want to give $100 to 5 people who need it more than I do. If you've been impacted by COVID-19 for whatever reason, and maybe you have an unexpected bill or you need help with groceries this week, just shoot me a DM with your Venmo, no questions asked, and we're just giving out $500. And that was pretty much it. And a lot of people reached out, and like the hard part is how many people reach out, and it makes me want to do more. And luckily, like, it kind of triggered this thing where Isabella Rose Foundation, which is a phenomenal organization, Steve and Carolina Simpson, who they kind of stepped up and said, hey, this is awesome, we want to help too, here's another 500. And not only that, they put money up, and then they also shared it with their whole database. So then all of a sudden I had more people reaching out to me that were like, hey, we really need $100. And the stories are real stories of just individuals that are impacted, and there's countless versions of it. And it was, at first it was daunting. I was like, oh my God, like there's more people than money right now. And a couple of people I gave money to, no questions asked, and said, hey, they literally said, like, I didn't think this was real. I actually don't need it that badly. I was going to give this to a friend of mine, but wow, you know what? I'm just going to help them out myself. You give this to someone else who needs it more. And those are the types of things where, you know what, just screenshot, cross out the names, share it, show the world, hey, there's a lot of good people out there that are doing good things. And by showing people, I think the real aspect of like, this is really helping a lot of people, it really kicked off a big thing, and a lot of people got involved. And within about 2 weeks, it just kind of kept growing. And within 2 weeks, we gave out about $5,500 at $100 at a time, just to people that needed it really badly for any type of bill or groceries or car insurance. And the problem is it's only a drop in the bucket. But the good thing is how much good it actually inspired to kind of get other people to just do a little bit more. And the biggest thing I learned out of it is a lot of people want to help if they can. And the easier you can make it on someone to help, the more help that you will get. And this wasn't like, we didn't do any big marketing. This was just like all happened on Instagram stories. And it was just, if you say you need the money, we're going to give you the money. And if anyone wants to give me money, cool, I'm going to give it right to this person. Some people asked if this was a write-off, if there was a charity involvement. And I was like, no, like, no, there's no paperwork. It's really just putting it in the hands of people that might need it more, and trying to do just a little bit of good today.
Wow, 5,500 in 2 weeks, based off of just one opportunity to give $500, and you created a sense of community around that, and people came together. And I love that people were honest with how they interacted with you with the money. That one story of the gentleman going, well, maybe I don't need this as much. Now they know this is legitimate and this is real, and your intentions are in the right place. And you hit it on the head too. That as a community, people right now want to help. They don't necessarily know how, but when you make it easy for them, they're quick to act. And I think we're seeing that all around. And that's why I wanted to kind of position this podcast to be about stories like you, who are just in this time being a change agent, being a servant leader, stepping up in opportunities where it's difficult, but there are others around us that may have it worse. And none of us are invincible from this. We're all going to be impacted and hurt, but it doesn't mean we have to focus on that. We can readjust our priorities and put it towards getting ourselves out of this with positivity and some hope. And these are the great stories that we're doing.
And I just want to jump in and say, like I take no credit for this at all. Like, I've stolen this idea from someone. Like, there's an author called, his name's Shea Serrano, and he's a phenomenal individual. And I follow him on Twitter. And he does these types of giveaways where he just says, hey, this person needs help, I'm going to give some money. If anyone wants to chip in, let's do it. And they've done big things. And I've seen that to the point where, like, I had just saw it on Twitter and then was driving home from work and saw someone who looked like they really needed some help. And because of like the high that I got from just reading this Twitter timeline of people helping, it made me want to help this person and just buy them a bunch of groceries. And I even told you about this. And it's one of those things where the impact that had, where I wasn't even involved with this giveaway that was happening in San Antonio, it impacted me to make me just want to help one person. And I know because of the $5,500 that we gave away, people have reached out and said, hey, I know I didn't help out in here, but here's something that I did. And I was just inspired by that. And that kind of thing is really contagious. And at a time where like everything is really scary and there's a lot of uncertainty and we really don't know where it's going, there is a lot of good that comes out of times like these. And that's why I think even talking about it, like talking about charity or talking about good deeds, is a difficult thing to do because it feels like self promotion, but it also leads to more good and it can become contagious. And I think it's worth having that conversation, and just kind of just pointing out the fact that like I was inspired by someone else that I saw do some good, who inspired me, who then inspired my $500 to turn into 5,000 plus whatever else good it inspired. And that's not even mentioning the people who are strangers to me that asked for help, got it. And then maybe one day they're going to be in a position to help out a stranger and they're going to do it instead of not do it. And that type of thing is just, it's really powerful, I think.
100%. I think by doing this, we're planting seeds in people's hearts and their minds, right? I think if we see others, we'll find inspiration in our own circumstances and use that push or that motivation to reach out. And it can be anything. I think you heard my show recently. I talked about what a change agent can be, and it's really everyone in any circumstance. It's just figuring out how you can be of service. And it can be, just knocking on someone's door, making sure they're okay if they need a meal. It could be, buying someone's groceries. And it's not about putting the spotlight on you, Skyler. Look what I did. I put, groceries in the hands of someone that really needed. Yay. It's more about hopefully sharing that story so that that inspiration can be felt by others. And then they, in their own terms, can move forward in their worlds to do a little good as well. It's all about, I guess, language and how you position it. But the idea is to do good and promote good so others can also contribute in their capacity.
Let me ask you a question. You've been involved with it. I mean, you're doing a ton with the community and you've fundraised and you've been involved with a lot of these things. As someone who's gone through that, what do you think some of the biggest obstacles are for people to want to donate? And I've got some that I think, but I'm curious in your experience, like a lot of people do want to help. Like a lot of people really do, but there's a lot of things that get in the way from that. Is there anything that kind of like stands out to you of why that happens?
Yeah, I think in our own way we have some sort of bond or relationship with categories that we typically want to put our money or time and energy towards, or causes or stories. So getting someone to come off, that commitment and or that relationship to donate to something they might be completely unaware of or have zero education on can be challenging. And that's where I never want to be salesy whenever I ask for money. So when I started Homes for Good, the whole idea was I'm going to be making donations out of my pocket based off my responsibilities as a real estate agent. Here's a business. Part of my business model is an open house, and that's going to, and it's a way for me to say thank you. But for me to do that properly, I have to first meet with them, understand their mission, their story, and the impact they're trying to make, so that I can best represent them. And then I just have a conversation with people about here's who this group is, what they're doing, their why behind it, and why it's important, not just for the organization, the people that are affected, for us as a community. And then I just thank them for either if they come into my house, I just say a donation's been made on your behalf towards a great organization. If you'd like information, here's what they've provided, and leave it at that. And I hope that I'm planting seeds, as I shared earlier, that they may be inspired to reach out to organizations that they're connected with.
That's
Uh,
a really good point. Like you do like to donate to the things that you're personally connected with. And some of the like stuff, like even in this giveaway, like did someone probably take advantage of me? Yeah, probably. But I've also been taken advantage of by my own friends a lot of the times, or by people that I trust or people I've done business with. So my fear used to always be like, oh, I'm getting ripped off, or I'll donate to this charity, but not that much will actually have an impact. So the things that I've learned is being able to like lower any type of friction, getting the money in the hands of the people that need it right away as fast as possible, showing the impact. And I think that's something that worked really well in this instance was giving it to people who are just like, I can't believe this is real. Like you have no idea how big and important this is. Like this is really gonna like save us this month. And then like screenshotting that, cross out the names and sharing it on Instagram stories. So that way the person who donated saw that like, whoa, you really had an impact on this person right away.
yeah,
Whether or not it's the right charity or not. Cause like I had someone reach out and being like, hey, don't you think you should be doing something for local animal shelters? And it's like you try to be doing good and it's always going to cause some type of feedback. So instead of
yeah.
being like, listen, I'm just giving money away, like why can't this just be a positive? I was just like, okay, cool, what do you have in mind?
Yeah.
And they didn't really have a response, like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe we could do something." I was like, "That sounds great, like, how can I help?"
Yeah.
And if you show support and you wanna help people out, like, good things can come from it, but even then, you can do everything right, and I think what made this really work was I had 0 expectation going into it. It wasn't like we have to hit this number, or it wasn't like hitting up people. It was really just, "Hey, it'd be awesome if we surprised, 10 more people this Easter weekend and made their Easter slightly better." And a lot of people were just like, "That's awesome. How do I do it?" And I was like, "You either send them money or send me money and I'll send it to them." Like there's no rhyme or reason to it. Let's try to make it easy. But even then, like I think there's always some type of hesitancy of doing something like this, of like, oh, no one's gonna get involved, or it's not gonna be that big of a deal, or it's not gonna make that big of an impact. I think it's way more about the money raised than it is anything. A lot of these people, to be honest, like strangers that found me in different cities, that just it got shared and just reached out, and just the fact that like someone out there was willing to kind of step up for them when they really felt like they were ignored or lost in the shuffle, or just didn't like, they felt like they were left behind, to be honest. And it's like, yeah, I don't have anywhere to turn for help. Like I'm taking care of everyone in my life. I've got no one to turn to. Just the fact that like a stranger and a group of people said, "Hey, here's something just to keep going," that has such a huge impact. And like, think those personal stories are so important, which is like the only reason I'd even want to have this conversation is because of just how powerful that was.
And so often, we've all been to these banquets and these galas the fundraisers throw, and you see, the big donors write a check, and that's intimidating, right?
Yeah,
And when
absolutely.
you see it, especially if you see it a few times, you start to think, if I can't give that much, then I can't have an impact. I can't make a difference, and that's just complete BS, right? I think
It's a great point.
there's someone said to me recently, Todd, who was on the show, and he mentioned that every donation has a name to it. And when you look at it from that standpoint, I think there's so much power in that. And that donation can be $1, but if that dollar goes to someone that is in need, then there's an impact, there's an impression left, and you don't know what that could trigger, right? So never hold back if you can.
And I
But
think the flip side of that too is, I think as a society, like I've seen this a lot lately, and I don't know if it's always been around or if it's new, but when like someone who is uber rich gives away like $10 million, and the first thing that people ever say about it is like, well, that's only like 0.05% of his net worth. And
yeah,
it's like, let's stop doing that. Let's just encourage the fact that like someone gave away $10 million and we're better off that that happened, and let's just be positive about it. Instead, it's like the people that win the lottery and there's always the guy that's like, well, it's only 50% after taxes. It's like, let's wait 5 minutes before we say that thing and just say, hey, good job giving 10 million away. Hopefully that encourages other people to give away 10 million, instead of just, well, anytime I give money away, people talk about how it's not enough. And it's just like, you know what, if you can give away money, awesome. If you can't, that's okay. Like don't be intimidated because someone else wrote a bigger check. And it's not about percentage of net worth, it's not about any of those things. It's just like, if you're in a position to help someone else out and you want to, then I think you should. And I think there's a lot of like stuff that gets in the way of that, and it'd be better if we kind of remove some of those obstacles, because sometimes it is difficult to try to help.
oh yeah, it is. And at no point is it a competition, right? And for those that can't, no disrespect whatsoever, because there are times where all of us are in positions where we just there, whether it's emotionally we can't give anymore, or physically or financially, there are times where you have to pull back and take care of you. But it's right now with these difficult times, we're seeing a lot of people suffering. You don't have to look very hard. The news is showing us to just change the channel. You got another story of fear, concern, hurt, pain. It's amazing, a lot of really great local things happening, and why not talk about those, why not share those? It can go a long way, and I think knowing that $500 help 5 different families buy groceries can in some ways be a lot bigger than hearing that someone gave $500,000 to a large organization that then don't have the resources to turn that $500,000 into story that showed what it did. That's what bothers me a lot about those big donations, is that you never hear about what that actually ends up doing, because it gets broken up and spread pretty thin across a lot of different channels within, depending on the organization. So I love these grassroots ones because they're very specific and to a specific need. And when people hear those results and the impact that they have, I believe people are more inspired to actually give and get and continue to give, because they're seeing in real time the work that's being done through those dollars. And that's basically what Homes for Good was all about. Let's just figure out where there's a need in this month. Let's hit that need and then share the story back. $100. Here's a family sponsored for the first Chief Phoenix for an entire year. All it was $100. Like in that, someone might be able to relate to that and go, I can do that, or I can give on a similar level, and hopefully, change someone's life. So it's all about, identifying a need, fulfilling that need, and hopefully being able to educate on the impact of the gift, so that more people can be aware of the work that's being done and feel like it's not just being absorbed with administrative costs. So with that, you've done a lot in this month, from the business side and the Skyler side. What is next for you as we kind of continue to navigate this reality we're living in? Do you want to continue to kind of throw some of these fun campaigns out there to use some of the resources to continue to build off the 5,500? Are you working on any other initiatives, or what could people do to either to reach out to you and learn more about kind of some of the things you're trying to accomplish right now?
I mean, I've got nothing planned, I'll be honest. We're very fortunate, and like my wife and I, we like to give a good portion away every year. And we try to grow on that each year, and we don't really talk about that, but it's just kind of personal goals of we just want to do a little bit more next year than we did this year, and watch that grow. But those are things that we do in private. This one was more of a let's kind of get this going and help some people, because a lot of it was us leaning on social media to find people that we don't even know who needed it. And in doing so, it found other people who we didn't know that wanted to also help. So will I do something else like that again? Yeah, I probably will, because of how powerful that was. I've been trying to figure out some ways of doing it where it seems like, because it was the way it happened was just so organic, it was amazing. Trying to plan something out almost feels like it might lose some of the magic. But again, maybe there's just obstacles that we're putting in front of ourselves to out of fear of not wanting it to fail, or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I think there's things that you can do, like at a high level and at a small level. I always had this weird inkling of when people were like asking for money, that I was being ripped off somehow. And that kept me from wanting to give more. And instead, I flipped that to where it's like, if someone's asking for money and I get ripped off, like, I'm still going to be here. That's okay. I've definitely been ripped off in business. I've been ripped off by good people. So why would I be so abject to being ripped off by someone who actually might not be ripping me off? So that's been kind of a change that's happened to me in the last few months. And what we're going through right now, I think is almost, it is unprecedented. And it's really to no fault of a lot of people. And like something like Orlando has 70,000 plus people who are now out of work because Orlando was built by the Disney Corporation and Disney shut down. And that's an entire town, like overnight, that all of a sudden is just out of work. And that type of thing like doesn't build up fast. So I just think like my wife and I are working really hard to put ourselves in a position to be able to take care of our business and our family, but also like usually these are times when you want to cut back and save, and we're trying to do the opposite. We're trying to just, I mean, I'm going to my favorite coffee shops instead of Starbucks, and I'm going to our favorite restaurants and spending a lot of money. And usually it just kind of goes against it. We're like, man, I just want to cut back. But we've worked really hard, and we've cut back a lot in our life to put ourselves in a position to be able to survive times like these, because we don't know how long it's going to be tight. But for a lot of people, it's just trying to do as much as we can throughout the day, instead of putting together one big plan with a big payoff at the end. So for me, it's kind of just going to small shops that are owned by local business people who have done awesome things in the community, and spending as much money as I possibly can there, and going out to restaurants and leaving tips, and doing a lot of little things but all the time. And I think that is something that a lot of people can do. And right now, that's kind of our only plan, is to try and do more this year than we did last year, where last year was a great market, this year's not. Can we still surpass what my wife and I did in the previous years? And we plan to.
Awesome. Well, you don't have to try very hard. I think you do it every day. You're a very positive, very driven, and motivated individual, and the content you're always putting out has a lot of positive messaging behind it. And I think you're leading a lot of people to a lot of success in a lot of different ways. So, me personally, I've experienced a lot from you and taken a lot away from you, and you've given me the ability to kind of grow my business and grow this a platform like this. So, just thank you for everything you've done to this point for me personally, and what you have been doing in the community in addition to this that 5,500 you raised, just like you said, just so authentically found an opportunity to do something, and it just snowballed from there. So keep being you, man. I just want to appreciate you and what you've been, not just in my life and to my business, but what you are every day to our city. And it's awesome to see a time like this not rattle you on any level, instead kind of elevate you. And
Well,
the
thank you
time
very much. Those are incredibly kind words, and I'm not good at taking compliments like that, but that was really nice. Thank you very much. It
well,
means a lot.
when you put the change agent hat on to start the show, man, I gotta represent you, man. But no, it's an honor to have you on this show. I know we work closely on a lot of different things, but when I heard when I saw what you were doing, and like I said, just so authentically you, it was really cool to see how it just snowballed into people locally and around the country just connecting with you. And there isn't a face to any of the gifts. Those were just trusted donations or gifts to people that hopefully use them to allow themselves to get through whatever trouble they were in. So just awesome. So keep doing you, man. Keep embracing this reality we're in, and using the strengths you have and the gifts you have to give back to our city, whether it's through RenzlerMedia or you and your family. I know you're doing a lot. So sorry if I kind of put you on the spot there, but I want more people to be able to connect with you, Skyler. You've got a handful of different platforms that people can follow you on. What are the best platforms you want anyone that's going to watch this show to connect with you on?
Instagram is doing really well as far as a two-way communication tool. But that or my newsletter, signing up for my email at the Skyler Irvine Digital Digest, SkylerIrvine.com is a great way to kind of see what we're doing on a regular basis. We're spending a lot of time on trying to put together information that is helpful to people, like teaching people who might got left off here's how to start your own YouTube channel so you can still put out content, or maybe start a side hustle during these times, or here's how to start your own podcast. And we're really kind of putting out a lot of that type of content that I think is just going to be really important moving forward. And I'm been working on a book with my ghostwriter, scribe, whatever you want to call it, and he was based out of Orlando, which is why I've talked about a lot of that Orlando stuff. But we've kind of repivoted in the last like 3 months to kind of capitalize on this, and not really capitalize, but kind of be like, hey, I really think that this is a turning point for an entire generation, and we're seeing some positives come out of it, but some of the negatives I think are going to be some of these jobs aren't ever going to return. But there's a lot of really skilled and talented people out there who are just unfamiliar with how to capitalize on it by using social media or digital media or online to their advantage, because they didn't think they would ever have to learn that stuff. So really, like, if anyone is out there and is looking to kind of, I don't know, add a second income, or turn their side hustle into like a business. Those are the things that we're really trying to help right now. Either teach you how to do it exactly on your own, or help you create that type of content to reach the audience that matters. And I think from there, we'll all come out of this on the other side just a little bit stronger.
I love it. Yeah, well, you're doing a lot, man. You inspire in a lot of ways, and you challenge us too with the content you're putting out, because you're not fearful on any level. You mentioned it a few times, but you would never guess it. You have that confidence in the content you put out there, and just yourself to keep trying. And I think there's no better time to push that message than right now. Just be the change agent in your own space. As Gretzky says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Take those chances right now, because these aren't just band-aids that we have to implement. These are best practices moving forward. I know in the real estate world, like, everything I'm doing right now isn't just to allow me to survive. It's going to propel my business into this new norm, this new reality we'll come out into. And that's going to be the expectation of my clients. How can I use digital and virtual to best serve buyer and seller and make it more efficient for them and more engaging? So there's a lot of really amazing lessons that we can be learning right now. And if we can focus on that, and then be inspired by leaders like yourself in our city that are taking opportunities to help those a little less uh, fortunate than ourselves, or could be in just positions of hurt or need, we'll make this a time that we can reflect back on as something that ended up being good. So thank you for representing the change agent hat. You are a change agent. You've obviously, I would gift you one now virtually, but you've already got it. So I'm stoked.
Yeah, I got mine early. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Tim. This was awesome.
This was a lot of fun. And anyone that hears the show, please, this is an open conversation. I would love to keep this platform open to anyone that's stepping up right now, anyone that's doing something to serve the needs of others. Let's just keep sharing those stories because I think there's a lot that we can all pull from them. So I'm open to any suggestions. I've got a lot already lined up, but there's always room for more. So stay with us. Continue to take on this Change Agent podcast. We're having a lot of fun with it. I would love any comments below, any reviews, obviously go a long way, help me be better in building out this platform and helps RenzlerMedia best position and brand this thing. So I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm just honored to have people like Skyler here in our city that are stepping up and really being a light into a world that can feel pretty dark right now. So thank you, my friend. Thanks for being that change agent. Thanks for sharing the story. And guys, check out RenzlerMedia. Check out what Skyler's doing. Honored to know you, my friend.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate you.
Guys, stay safe.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you.